Welcome back to the program. Let's go live now to the Executive Manager at the Australia-Israel Jewish Affairs Council, Joel Burnie. Joel, thanks for your time. A really tragic development this week. An Australian, Zomi Frankham, killed in an aid convoy. A preliminary look at it says it was an accident. There's going to be a thorough investigation. I know your organisation has expressed its profound grief and regret for this incident.
Thank you for having me on, Kieran. There's no doubt that this is a tragic incident that's occurred over the past couple of days. An innocent Australian aid worker, Zomi Frankham, who unfortunately lost her life in what appears in the preliminary investigations by the IDF to be a misidentification of a Hamas operative that was thought to be with the convoy that was not. It's a very unfortunate circumstances that the Israeli government, on behalf of the Defence Forces, has taken full responsibility for.
Prime Minister Albanese said it's not good enough to simply say this happened in wartime and accidents happen, that this is a breach of humanitarian international law, given aid workers were hit. Do you accept the anger and outrage expressed by the Prime Minister and Foreign Ministers?
Oh, I certainly accept their frustration and their outrage at the incident. In terms of what's to happen afterwards, I think that it's a little bit too soon to make certain judgments and conclusions. There is an investigation that's ongoing. The preliminary results of that initial investigation have already been presented. And Israel, as a democracy, will go through its democratic processes of thoroughly investigating the incident, finding out exactly what went wrong, why it happened, and provide that transparent investigation, the details of that transparent investigation to Australia and other authorities who have been impacted by this. So there's no doubt that I understand the government's frustration with this, specifically with the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, because an Australian has innocently lost her life. But what I will add is that in terms of the reference to what Prime Minister Netanyahu has said about, I guess, the fog of war, war is not pretty, Kieran. And unfortunately, in the way that this particular war is being fought by Hamas in such dense urban environments, where Hamas has, on many occasions, been proven to use aid convoys, ambulances, and other civil infrastructure to embed itself, it makes it very, very difficult to operate in this area. So that is by no way a justification for the mistakes that occurred, and full responsibility and accountability has been taken. But this does have certain context to it that I believe will be fleshed out through the investigation.
It's diabolical, the whole scenario. You're talking about such a tiny enclave as well, where these battles are unfolding, and it is just a tragedy on so many different levels. I wonder, though, Joel, what's your view on Israel's international support? Because, as you rightly point out, it was Hamas that started this thing, and it's Israel defending itself. Everyone believes in Australia, every sensible and mainstream person would argue they have a right to defend themselves against an attack. But do they need to be more cognizant of the international support, say in the likelihood of a ground offensive in Rafah?
I think specifically with this, I think they need to be more cognizant of how aid convoys are essentially escorted and protected on the enclave. So my hope is, and it's been announced by the IDF, with the results of the preliminary investigation, there will be certain procedures and different command and control centres that will be implemented to hopefully avoid this specific event from occurring again. In terms of Israel's international legitimacy, and specifically to do with the operation in Rafah, I think I was on this program maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago before I was in Israel for the past month, and we were discussing about the concerns with that operation. And I do note that operation hasn't started. So I noted 6 weeks ago that Israel was developing plans that recognised the fact that there was significant civilian population in Rafah, and contingency plans to protect that civilian population would be implemented. And I still hold firm to that. So I know that there's a team, a senior Israeli delegation in the United States now that is looking at US alternatives to a full-scale operation in Rafah that will still have the ultimate aim of being able to remove those last battalions that are still there from being able to control territory without impacting the millions of civilians that are there. However, I am very confident that Israel would not launch a large-scale operation in Rafah without the physical protection of the civilians that are there. And that should, and hopefully will be enough for the international community to recognise Israel's restraint when it comes to Rafah, but also understand its importance, that this is the last battalions of Hamas that are theirs. So by echoing the foreign minister and the prime minister's sentiments on this conflict before, if Hamas has no future role in the governance of Gaza, something must be done to remove those battalions from Rafah. Either Hamas is told by the international community, which I don't hear them saying, that they should lay down their arms and surrender and release the hostages unconditionally. Otherwise, different alternatives are being discussed now for that potential operation.
Joel, Burnie from AIJAC, just back from Israel. I appreciate you making the time to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kieran.